Greetings, all you Jackson Jennets, and welcome to your Daily Dose of Donkey with Ginger. It's time for some Steelers talk. The name of the show, we're going to be talking about the Super Bowl. If there's any Steelers topics that Laskers or Gingy has, we'll get into those. And, of course, I promise, since it starts this week, I have a few players that I'm looking forward to see playing in the XFL. I am the Viking Donkey. I am joined by Mutant Gingy and Laskers. Fellas, Super Bowl happened. How you feeling?
Yo, what up, Mutant Gingy in the house? What a game, folks, eh? Coming right down to the wire. Gingy called an offensive Super Bowl, and lo and behold, 60-plus point game.
True. Laskers, take on the Super Bowl.
That was boring. That's my take.
I have to say this, and the reason the game gets lost on me, Gingy, is I said one specific thing. I said, I don't want to see the people in zebras decide the game, and the people in zebras decided the game. And we can talk about a plethora of bad calls. I might get into them. Bad calls I feel went both ways, but a decisively bad call in the final minutes of the game. But I'm going to break it down to you this way, Gingy. I watched a lot of commercials. I was disappointed. There's a halftime show with Rihanna. It got me excited. The halftime show, I'm going to be honest, dude, disappointing. You see her there with some bad lip singing or very minimal singing if she was actually singing, whichever version you want to go with. Some props that really had no use but to be there. And if you've watched dance moves in the modern day, a very basic dance performance. There wasn't really, it seemed, a theme to go with it. It was just... I was very vastly disappointed by the fact the Super Bowl was decided by refs. The halftime show was very blah. I mean, I think the Weeknd had more cool stuff going on, and that one I really wasn't a fan of. And commercials that I can't remember the last time I saw a commercial that made me just giggle. Come on now, that's not cool, is it, Gingy?
Well, yeah, I can't speak much for the commercials and the hoopla, Donkey, but in terms of the game itself, back and forth game, we did have the comeback. You talk about referees deciding games. Oh, man. I don't know, Donkey. There's a referee in every single football game that's played all year long, right? Sometimes calls happen in the first 5 minutes of games. Sometimes calls happen in the last 5 minutes. It's not as if the call was necessarily the holding call. Is that what's in question here? Is that what you're talking about?
Yes, the call that, and I'm going to bring this up again, someone went back and looked through the tape. So either that call was called incorrectly 22 out of 23 times, or it was called, which means it was called either correctly 1 out of the 23 times it happened, or they missed it 22 other times that it happened in the game. That call got called one time, but a jersey grab that inhibited a player was done 23 times through the game is the number I saw, which means they either missed the call 22 times or they missed the call once, and that one time was in the final 2 minutes of the game.
Yeah, I think the call that was made on the field was with the matchup of Smith-Schuster and Bradbury there. I think that was the right call at the time. That's unfortunate.
So you're saying they missed that call 22 other times in the game?
I am only talking about one play in the football game, right? On that play, was there holding? Yes.
Gingy,
now, there could have been other times you could have called holding, right? We've talked about the human element of refereeing before.
I'm going to say this right now.
The correct call was made. It could have gone.
I'm going to say this right now. There's no way the correct call was made. I know this because playing basketball, playing soccer. There's a plethora of when you get to the final minutes of the game, you know what the referees are allowing. Okay, if they call that early in the game, you know you can't do it. The thing is, if it's not called the whole game, you know you're allowed to do it. Whether it's giving a guy a little jersey pull before you go up for a rebound, whether it's when you step in front of someone, if you win the ball, do they let you get away with a little hip contact in soccer? As a guy who was really good at that, I knew what the refs would let you do and what the refs wouldn't let you do. And while you can say by the book that's a good call, if it hadn't been called on the field all night, it is a terrible call to be making it at the end of a game in a decisive point. It'd be like, hey, I've let you hip check this guy all day, but right now you did it on the edge of the 18-yard box on the 90th minute. We're about to go to stoppage time, and this is the time I'm going to blow my whistle, and I'm going to give him a PK in a game that's tied 1-1. I'm going to give him a PK on a thing that I've let you get away with all day. It's a terrible call. It's something that can't happen. I'm not saying it's not the right call by the book, but I'm saying as a ref, you've let him play all game. You can't decide now's the time to throw your flag. Laskers, your take?
Oh, I agree 100% on that. If you've let it go all game, you can't just decide at the end of the game to, oh, maybe I'll call this one now. That's just not fair to both. No matter what team it was called on, it's not fair to both teams, really, when you think about it.
I agree with that. Gingy, any rebuttal from you?
My call stands, all right? If you in a game like the Super Bowl with as many eyes on it as possible, these calls happen hundreds of times throughout the season. Okay, they happen probably double-digit times every Sunday during the regular season, right? When you have to look at the play that was on the field. Let's look at the play that was on the field, right? By both teams. Good offensive performances. Nobody really dropping the ball anywhere. 3 tutties from Pat Mahomes.
I
Donkey.
don't know. Jalen Hurts had a very, very, very costly drop of the football, Gingy.
Yeah, I understand, but Donkey, hear me out. You know what I'm saying? In terms of the element where we want to create a narrative around the refereeing in this game, that's just a bit of a stretch to me. Yes, there was refereeing in this game. To make the entirety of that the centerpiece of the... I don't think that was it. Donkey. That's my
Gingy,
rebuttal.
I'm going to break it down to you this way. They overturned a call that took them over 5 minutes to look at in the booth. Clear and obvious evidence is the way they have to overturn a call. But let's get this. It takes them 5 minutes to find clear and obvious evidence? Yeah, I don't think so. And we can get into what's a catch in the NFL because I don't know how Devontae Smith didn't catch the ball. I do think Dallas Goedert caught the ball because I don't think it ever left his right hand. But if the Chiefs would have lost, that would have been the debatable catch is whether or not Goddard's catch was an actual catch. And then let's talk about a clear catch of the football in Miles Sanders, which was a fumble and then return for a touchdown from the Chiefs, where clearly 2 hands, 2 feet on the ground, goes to tuck the football. It gets knocked out there. But for some reason, that third element of a catch, which how'd you even define what the third element of a catch here? Surviving the ground, but if you survive the ground, the ball's allowed to move. A time element. What the hell is the definition of a time element, please? Or a third step or football move. What's the definition of a football move? Is going to tuck the ball not the football move? Or do you have to fully tuck the ball to complete a football move? I mean, just officiating and all. Bad rule there on the catch rules. But officiating to me is a huge problem because, 1, how do they determine the catch? 2, how do you even review a catch? Because I don't even know what the standard is to overturn a ruling on a reviewed catch now. And 3, I'm going to bring this up, Gingy. If the refs called that right, then officiating was terrible because there were 22 missed occasions of jersey tugs that impeded wide receivers. So you're telling me the referee only called a penalty that occurred 23 times once. You're telling me less than 5% of the time they caught that penalty? That's terrible officiating.
Yeah, I mean, you spin an argument with words, but you have a lot of assumptions that we're all going to assume that your 23 recollections of these jersey tugs are
it wasn't
all equal.
Me. It was a former NFL official.
So if you want to Mark Madden this, Donkey,
I'm not Mark Madden. Gingy, these are literal definitions by a guy who's a
literal
former
definitions
NFL
by literal definitions, huh? Okay.
That's what he said out there. They went through it. They went stringent on it. And if you're going to tell me that is holding and it's not called through the whole game, that's fine. I'll hear you on that. You can spread it out however you want, but I think the layperson looks at that and says, you can't make that call there. Askers, you have any takes on officiating in the Super Bowl?
Well, I think I'm not even going to go this as far as the Super Bowl. I think that each week they decide how a football move is determined, and it's just a flip of the coin.
That's fair. But I mean, I have a hard time looking at a game and feeling like the determining factor wasn't a single player on the football field at the time. The determining factor was a guy with a yellow hanky in his pocket who makes a decision that's porous at the time, for lack of a better term. Whether you want to say it's a right call, sure, it was. But by the definition of what was put on the tape there, it happened throughout the game. It happened. It wasn't called throughout the game. It's a porous take, in my opinion, for an official to be like, well, I didn't make the wrong call by the book. And even if we want to say that's a fine call, even ex-super head official Mike Pierre on national television goes out and says, that's not holding. You can't call that there. Gingy, I mean, you have one of the premier officials in terms of official talks even saying that's a call you can't make on the broadcast.
Yeah, I don't know.
But it's just, I don't know. It was a disappointing end to a disappointing season for me as a Steelers fan, because Steelers didn't get to make it. And then a Super Bowl that really should have been a highlight of two great quarterbacks having a great matchup head to go together that just was ruined by poor rules from the NFL overall, poor officiating from the NFL. It reminded me of, I don't think it was an AFC championship game. I believe it was an AFC divisional round game where Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes are having this just great all-time back and forth. And the game got determined by a coin flip because the stupid NFL rule is if you score a touchdown on the first possession, the other team doesn't get the ball. In an era where we design it for more points, for more entertainment. Watching that on the national stage be the determining factor to me, Gingy, is a killer. It's much like NBA games where the refs decide in the final 3 minutes they're going to call fouls a certain way to determine the outcome. I felt that's what happened here, was that officials decided they wanted to be the ones to determine the outcome.
Yeah.
Got to cover the spread.
Yeah, I mean, now after saying no to it the whole time, you're killing it, me, Gingy. Come on.
I don't know, Donkey. I made my point, and I don't have anything else to say. You're just telling me I'm wrong. So I don't believe that you're wrong. I think that we're both entitled to a perspective, and there you go.
That's not the way to get a fun back and forth going on a podcast, my Gingy. You gotta hit your point. You gotta.
I hear you. My point was made,
Mark
Madden. My point was made, Mark Madden, is that your irrefutable 23 points of evidence that you saw throughout this entire time, Donkey, those are not irrefutable facts. Those are your opinion, Donkey. All right. So when you tell me first off and are interrupting me again as I'm talking here, I think my point is already eloquently illustrated as to why I have to answer the way that I do.
Well, first off, you keep saying my. I didn't go back and rewatch this game.
You just said that you did. Check the tape.
No, I said I went off a guy who went back, and a former official who went back and watched the game.
Donkey.
So you can gladly check the tape, but I didn't say
we should.
I watched it, because I didn't watch the Super Bowl twice. I would not bear myself to watch that porous display, I guess is what I'll call it, again, because, again, the game wasn't overall, it was a fine game, but the point is, refs killing it for me. It's killing that just view for me. I just want to clear up a couple misconceptions there. I did not wish watch it. What I said is, and if I misspoke, I do apologize completely. I thought I had made it obvious that there was people who went back and watched it, former officials in some of the circles, because I was talking through PFF channels is how I got the information, is they went back, there's a couple PFF guys, Drew Stanton, former quarterback was also part of it. There was an official whose name is slipping me right now. They were guys who went back, went through it, and they found, if that was the call, that there was 22 other incidents of jersey pulls of that inhibited receiver progression, which is why the NFL, in the NFL statement, why the NFL said the call was correct is because there was a jersey pull that inhibited receiver progression, and they based that off other things, including they went back and they used the AWS things along with it, the Amazon things, and they tracked, did these jersey pulls slow down receivers, and on that not strenuous is not what I meant to, on those circumstances, they had found it that it had, in fact, if that was to be considered the case, had found that had happened 22 other times within the Super Bowl. I personally did not go back and look because I had no one to rewatch this game. I had a lot of shit going on this week, so I didn't have time to go rewatch this game. But I don't know, just at the end of the day, feeling that officials were the ones who decided the Super Bowl is just a hard pill to swallow. And I don't know. I know Gingy says he didn't feel they affected the outcome of it. So I guess we'll just go and I'll take Lasker's your perspective on whether or not the officials changed the outcome of that game.
I mean, in my opinion, yes, they did. Specifically that last play that definitely helped the Chiefs score the final 3 points.
Yeah, for more so run out the clock, and a nice pick six there by actually my time is going to be off when I redo this, so I shouldn't even talk about that. But we're talking, bigger thing to me was the Eagles defense did not perform the way they should have in that game. I mean, I hate what happened with that end play, but at the end of the day, the Chiefs offensive line balled out. I mean, they allowed 0 sacks of Patrick Mahomes throughout the football game. Enough can't be said about that. The Chiefs defensive line did a lot better job of stopping the run than I thought they'd be able to. And when you get into it, in the second half of the football game, when everything's on the line, the Chiefs had 2 wide open touchdowns that Philly did absolutely nothing about. And the way that second half was going, the first half of the game, the Philadelphia Eagles, by far the better team. The second half of the game, the Kansas City Chiefs, by far the better team. But if you had to tell me the X factor for the game, I guess what I say is it's the referees. But that's
no,
just my
I got a better X factor. It was the athletic trainers that whatever concoction that they gave Patty Mahomes to come out in the second half and look like his ankle didn't bother him. That's the X factor.
The concoction they gave him was that offensive line made it. He didn't have to move an inch. He could catch it, be a statue, and throw. Gingy, the way that Chiefs offensive line played that second half was just chef's kiss stellar.
Absolutely.
I guess the whole game, truthfully.
Absolutely agree with that. That comes in. We talked about the vaunted Eagles defense the week before, especially the D line being the central strength of that unit, and coming away when your central strength of your team really. It's tough to say with the Eagles, but in my opinion, having a strong defense, 0 sacks, relatively limited pressures. That's a heck of a win for the Chiefs, and I think that's your deciding factor in the game. Right there is when you're able to neutralize a team's strength, you're gonna perform well.
That's true. But then some other fun news. So 2 coordinators get hired out of this game, and somehow neither one of them goes by the name of Eric Bieniemy. What the hell does that man have to do? And I believe he just took a job with the Washington Commanders. What does that man have to do to get himself a head coaching job? That is the offensive coordinator of the Kansas City Chiefs, former offensive coordinator, I guess now.
I don't really have a good answer for that one.
Hire him.
No, we're going to hire the losers of that game, not the winners of that game, because apparently Andy Reid needs no help, and his coaching tree doesn't need to produce head coaches recently, but that's here nor there. Not really much going on in Steelers land. Any stories you guys have heard about that?
Nothing I've heard.
Pretty quiet on the Steelers front. Mostly Super Bowl hoopla.
Truth. So we're going into XFL time. Do you guys have anything that you're looking forward to from the XFL season?
Not me,
God.
really.
Donkey. I don't know nothing about that XFL. Are we sponsored on here, a Daily Dose, or what? Why are you talking about XFL?
I wish so, because it's football. It's football with some better rules than the NFL currently has. I mean, the size of the weird kickoff rule that they had last time the XFL was there was really productive. Was led to more returns happening and less injuries happening. So I thought that was kind of fun. I know that they're gonna get rid of the whole idea if the offense fumbles the ball through the end zone that it's a touchback for the defense. They're now going to put the ball back at the spot of the fumble. I believe both the XFL and USFL are doing that rule. I think that's probably a positive thing to happen because I've always thought that was a weird rule. I mean, benefits to the defense probably should stay in place with the way the offensive environment's going, but that's neither here nor there. But more importantly, come on. You know, one of the most talked about things in baseball, and I'll go with Laskers on this, is who's coming up? Who are young prospects that look good and maybe have a chance to break into future teams, right? The reason we should talk about the XFL and the USFL is it's giving people the chance to showcase some talents. We've seen a few people make the transition out of those leagues, or it's giving guys, and I'll go over a list of a few of them, who maybe have had a chance in the NFL but have been passed over recently, whether it's been to recent poor performance and or suspensions from drugs or just being dumb and being in violent cases. But there are some interesting players I think you'll see on these lists. And I think, Gingy, that's what we should look for in the XFL.
Well, are we going to start watching the CFL?
If they televised it and it was spring football, there is a decent chance you would get me to watch it. But the bigger problem is the CFL never really translates to the NFL because they play 12-man moving football, right? If I'm not mistaken.
I got one that did transfer, but...
There are players that do, but it's really a different brand of football up there. I think the fact that these leagues have this, you're going to see some young players and a lot more ex-NFL talent there that is going on. And more interesting, this is a chance, and I still say it, I want to see the NFL partner with here, get some players into these leagues, try out some new rules, use it like a minor league system. And that's why I just want to point out some players who I thought were interesting. Gingy, your thoughts on XFL now?
Yeah, I can buy into that. Like to know more, definitely, about XFL. I don't know much about it. You know, as a Steelers fan, obviously my experience with XFL, you know where I'm heading with this. T-Gun Tommy Maddox, former XFL champion, I believe. Correct, Donkey?
Yes, that's I don't know if he's a champion, but definitely comes from there. That's what I mean. You give some quarterback specifically for me a chance to show something because let's be honest, in the NFL, if you're a backup quarterback, you're relegated to 3 preseasons games a year now, I think is what it's down to, right?
Yes.
That's not a great chance of developing. I understand this is a lesser tier competition, but there are some talents that get to come out from here. I mean, the former USFL before it folded during the one or EFL, whichever one it was out there showing some things. If you've ever watched fan-controlled football, it's actually kind of entertaining. If you watch it on Twitch, you get to vote on polls for plays that they get to run throughout the game. Kind of weird stuff going on out there. And you get to watch Johnny Football have himself a little fun. But to me, it's a chance for development. There's a lot of young, interesting guys out there who I think development and putting it on tape might help them make an NFL roster, some fringe guys. And I want to start with a list that is mostly Pittsburgh Steeler based here. I'm going to start with some young guys who never had NFL experience, actual NFL experience. And these mostly are going to be offensive based guys for me. But running back that I liked going into this year, an undrafted guy, Mateo Durant, is going to be playing in the XFL. Do you guys remember Tyler Vaughn's? We thought he had a chance of making the team because of the preseason he had with the Steelers this year. Doesn't make the practice squad, but now he gets to go out there and play in the XFL. A guy a lot of people were interested in before, Matthew Sexton. They thought he was going to be a big returner. I remember reading a lot of people talking about him, and now he's a sleeper to make this team. Those are some guys who are going to get a chance in the XFL, and I'm sure if you're fans of other teams, you have a lot of names like that. Those are the guys that I'm really interested to see get this opportunity, Laskers and Gingy. And then I will go, after you guys talk about those type of guys getting a chance, what you think it means, I'll go into some former players who are also about to get a second, third, fourth chance, depending on how you want to look at it.
Gingy, you want to go first?
Donkey, I'm not that well versed on the XFL. Don't know when the season starts. Don't know when it's going to run. Really just wrapping up the Super Bowl here. Tell me who I should be watching out for.
It starts at tomorrow. You can watch it on ABC or ESPN. It's on the ESPN family of networks. And it runs 8 consecutive weeks and then has their championship after that. And I think it might end before the USFL starts. But Laskers, your take on XFL developmental process, young guys. Do you think this is a spot to showcase them?
I think it's definitely a good place that they could potentially gain the experience that they need to make it to the NFL. And so actually there's a kind of an interesting thing on it is there's a Thursday night game next week, just in case you guys are wondering, but it doesn't start till 9:00 Eastern. So
that works out.
At least Donkey will be able to watch it.
That works out perfect for me. Let's go some more famous Steelers in here. And Gingy, let me know if you know any of these names. How about Martavis Bryant getting another look at in the XFL? How about Eli Rogers? Another name from the Ben time people like. How about running back Keelan Ballage, a guy who's shown NFL caliber talent, stint with 3 teams, going to get himself another look out there. Or better yet, Gingy, because maybe the Steelers need this. Do you remember Brad Wing, punter, back in the day?
Yes.
Maybe that's who we need to be looking out for. Maybe this is the opportunity for the Pittsburgh Steelers to find themselves a new punter or perhaps a new kicker, depending on how Chris Boswell goes. But there are some more interesting names out there. I'll end with the quarterbacks last because there are a few who one of them on the list, by the way, a former Steeler for me. But how about former, I believe he led the NFL in sacks one year, Vic Beasley. Still young enough to be out there. First-round pick is going to be trying to showcase again in the XFL. You have Matt Elam. I don't know if you guys remember him, former first-round pick by the Ravens. Did a lot of stupid criminal stuff that got him kind of kicked out of the league, for lack of a better word, which is very similar to another guy there who was a former Raven, but was an undrafted guy, Will Hill, on the defensive side of the football. Those are guys who've it is what it is. There's a running back who has about 24 years old, I now think right now, Matt Jones. He had 300-yard games in his career with Washington before really washing out of the NFL. Wide receiver front, you have some interesting names out here. I mean, at one time, if you would have had these 4 across the line as your starting wide receivers, let's say circa 2018, you would have had a nice set of wide receivers. You're talking Josh Gordon, played all around. Terrence Williams played for Dallas. You're talking Cody Lattimore, a guy who was a second-round pick, spent some time in Denver. Believe he went to the Giants. You're talking Geronimo Allison, who at one time people thought was going to be a pretty big receiver because he had a good few games playing with Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. There are some intriguing names out there to watch to see if they can do anything. Maybe some other guys from some smaller schools looking to make a name for themselves. On the quarterback side of things, you got guys like former Pitt player Ben DiNucci. I believe he started a game last year for the Dallas Cowboys, or is the year before. You have former first-round pick Paxton Lynch, who spent a little time with the Steelers, didn't really work out there. Big talented guy. You have a couple career backups who showed a couple things once in a while, and who knows, maybe they're taking the Geno Smith way of developing, and guys like Brett Huntley and AJ McCarron. And then you have Taiamu, who is he was a darling, and last time the XFL came was probably the best quarterback out there on the scene. I mean, not names who aren't household names. I mean, if you're a common NFL fan, you've heard of quite a few of these players. So maybe there's a little bit of interest to see if these guys still have it, I guess, for lack of a better term.
I'm interested to see if Josh Gordon is still as fast as he was.
That's a fair one. Gingy, any names from those lists really make you go,
Yeah, I'm excited for week 1. You're talking about Vic Beasley. Wow. Not a name I expected to hear tonight. That's pretty darn cool, though.
That is a guy that I think I wanted the Steelers to sign, maybe not last offseason, but definitely the offseason before, because he's a guy who's only like 3 or 4 years removed from having a 14-sack year. He's still on the proper side. I think he's young 30s. That's intrigue to me there. And of course, the talk is always going to be the quarterback play, because you want to find that diamond in the rough. You want to find that Geno Smith. And we've seen people break out of these leagues before, as you've said with Tommy Maddox. You've seen it in other leagues with Kurt Warner. You've seen quarterbacks, after getting some reps, something just clicks. To me, you want to look at the quarterbacks who have clearly the arm talent to make it. And I think when you talk Huntley, you talk Paxton Lynch, you talk A.J. McCarron, you are talking quarterbacks who clearly have the tangibles to play in the NFL. Did something click on the proper side to them? That's, to me, the most intriguing thing about the potential of the USFL, which isn't happening yet, and the XFL, which is about to happen. And I think it's kind of cool that these secondary leagues are now broadcast on bigger networks, because it gives you, as a lay fan, a chance to watch it, because you don't have to go out and buy some weird package that comes with, like, ESPN The Ocho or something if you want to watch, dodgeball and all that fun stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I am glad that we're able to watch it now, and I'm looking forward to seeing what kind of breakout names they might have this season.
Laskers, any closing thoughts on it from you?
No, it's definitely going to be interesting. At least, gives us some more football till baseball starts, so I'm good with it.
I also have to say, I hated when the college football not college football, college sports decided to pay players, because what I always wanted to happen with the XFL or the USFL was them to become a developmental league for young players. Like how the NBA now has that 1-year rule before you can enter the draft. So a lot of kids decide to enter like the G League and get paid while they're playing, bigger guys, bigger competition. Instead of going to college, they go and get paid. I really wanted to see the XFL or USFL become that, and like the top high school quarterback recruits every year just getting millions of dollars to go to the XFL, USFL. But I guess my dream is now broken. So now my dream has changed to the NFL needs to partner with one of these two leagues so that backup quarterbacks can go there and start, and young developmental quarterbacks like Kellen Moore, those type of guys. Who's another one? Like Jeff Driscoll's types could go out there, could get some playing time, and maybe develop and hone their skills a little bit. Because the way, in my opinion, to start making the NFL product an even cleaner, better product, and I'm going to say this is, how crappy is it, guys, to watch a backup quarterback go in and play?
It's pretty bad. I don't enjoy ever watching a backup quarterback. I guess Brock Purdy is the one difference.
Unless it's Chad Henne leading in the 95-yard touchdown drive in the AFC Championship game.
Let's go.
I mean, or maybe it was the divisional game. I don't remember. My hope, and this is why I'm excited about spring football, is I hope one of these leagues does well enough the NFL wants to partner with it, and then we get to start to see backup quarterbacks get developed. The more playing time backup quarterbacks get, the better their play is going to be. Because let's be honest, they're the only ones who don't get to get in and get any real reps. I would love to see just a development to where losing your quarterback, yeah, it's going to hurt, but it's like back to the days where losing your quarterback didn't mean losing the season, as NFL teams now clearly quarterback based, and without a quarterback, you kind of look very lost, unless you have Kyle Shanahan as your coach, because he just knows how to get people wide open. But that means it's time to go to shout-outs. Laskers, you want to start it?
Sure. My shout-out is Patty Mahomes. Congratulations, buddy. You're now the most hated quarterback in the league. Now that you've won 2 Super Bowls, you're approaching Brady territory. So, congrats on that win.
Kudos. Gingy!
Shout out all participants 22-23 NFL season in the books. We've wrapped up another one, boys. Getting excited for a heck of an off season. And April and draft before you know it. But hey,
True that,
shout
true
out
that.
22-23 season. Let's go.
My shout out has to be Laskers. It has to be Gingy. They were here. I don't know if they're going to be back for more episodes. Of course, I'm going to be breaking down some cool things, maybe a highlight or two from an XFL game. And I'll be breaking down the Steelers season by position group, by where the stats stack, up against everyone else in the NFL, because that's always fun to lead the debate. And a special shout out this week to Gingy, because while I was trying to get him super into debate, I could tell I got him a little angry, and I didn't mean to do that, Gingy. So here's a special shout out to you. But I am the Viking Donkey. That's the Viking_Donkey on Twitch and Twitter. Your daily dose of Donkey with Ginger is the channel where you get to catch all of this fun content. Let us know what you like, what you didn't like. If there's something you want to hear about, I'll be sure to do my best to try and make sure it gets included. That's everything for me. Send it to Laskers.
I'm the Laskers everywhere, and here we go, Rays for the baseball season. Over to you, Gingy.
Mutant Gigi in the house once again. We playing games. We talking football. Another season in the books, boys. It's been a good one. Keep the seats warm though. Keep it tuned here. We're gonna be talking off season. It's gonna be a blast. Wave 'em if you got 'em, Steelers fans. Here we go.